Hey everyone, what's going on? I just want to make a quick follow-up video here. I just uploaded these two videos a couple hours ago, and I actually made this video on Friday into Saturday, and then I made this video a couple days ago, I think, but I I just didn't upload them because I ran out of time really. I was trying to add some notes to really add to what I was talking about, to hopefully explain it a little bit better than what I did. And then I just got busy. I had a band gig, then I had band practice last night, and a bunch of other things, and whatever. I finally uploaded these two videos. But if you just listen to these two videos, some of the major things I was talking about was how these recent events within the truth community seem to be pointing to a theme with like assassinated presidents or presidents who die in office, such as the Buffalo rally and just the Buffalo shooting, and how William McKinley had died at the World's Fair in Buffalo, and the Super Bowl was synced up to Zach Taylor. And Zachary Taylor, the president, also died in office, and he died on July 9th, which is O.J. Simpson's birthday. O.J. Simpson, the Buffalo Bills player and Tops Friendly Market that supposedly got shot up in Buffalo. It opened on O.J. Simpson's birthday, the same day Zachary Taylor died, and before that, we had that subway shooting on the anniversary of the Civil War. Think about Civil War, Abe Lincoln being assassinated. Also, FDR also died on April 12th, the anniversary of the Civil War beginning. And then, of course, after the OKC rally, a bunch of people went to Dealey Plaza, and Dealey Plaza is where JFK was assassinated. And, I'm not going to re-explain it all. You can watch the video, but a lot of stuff to do with assassinated presidents. And I also mentioned a whole bunch of stuff about the connection to these grocery store shootings with Skull and Bones, and how it was linked up to Tim Russert, a guy who's known in the truth community for calling out George Bush and John Kerry for being members of Skull and Bones and the number 322. But Tim Russert is also from Buffalo. And then, of course, the Oklahoma City rally had to do with the bombing by Timothy McVeigh, and Timothy McVeigh was actually from the metro area of Buffalo as well. So, all of these things are interrelated. And then the second day of this Buffalo rally, this Vice News showed up, and it was important because they had written an article about Zach on, right after the 2017 World Series, and all of that had to do with the number 52, right? And such as it was synced up to the Hurricane Harvey and Houston being in the World Series, and such as hurricane equals 52 and flood equals 52 and Harvey equals 52. And 52 days before the World Series began, Matt Harvey pitched against Houston, and he was the first pitcher to pitch in Houston after the hurricane. Well, anyway, that was interesting because we recently got another story about how Matt Harvey was suspended for 60 games for giving Tyler Skaggs drugs, and Matt Harvey got suspended 52 days after his birthday. And the same day that Vice News was in Buffalo here, the Houston Astros beat the Texas Rangers with a score of 5-2. Of course, Texas Rangers equals 52, and that day was also 52 days before what would have been Tyler Skaggs' birthday. And remember, Tyler Skaggs was the Los Angeles Angels player, along with Matt Harvey at the time, and he died just before before the Angels played the Texas Rangers. And of course, George Bush, the Skull and Bones member, also has ties back to the Texas Rangers. He used to own the Texas Rangers, and even threw out one of the first pitches in one of the games of the 2017 World Series, the one we're talking about, where the Vice News wrote that article about Zach. And of course, the guy who wrote that article, his name equaled 52. But it was a lot to do with the number 52. The word president also equals 52, and Skull and Bones and so on. And talking about assassinated presidents, and think about Tyler Skaggs and Los Angeles Angels synced up to Matt Harvey. And there's a whole lot more. Just watch the videos, because the Los Angeles Angels, when Tyler Skaggs died, it was really important to the fair symbolism that I was talking about. The Washington Nationals had went on to win the World Series later that year against the Houston Astros. And they used to be the Montreal Expos. And of course, they were named after the World's Fair. And think about William McKinley and a whole bunch of other things, right? But I knew the Los Angeles Angels were somehow important to some of the things that are going on. So, once again, if you want to understand it, just go back and watch the other videos. They're really long. It's a lot to re-explain. But on May 24th, then, we got two really big stories in the news. And one of them was that George Bush, there was some guy who got arrested for plotting to assassinate George Bush. It's like, what are the odds? There's somebody who's plotting to assassinate George Bush now on May 24th, which just so happens to be the same day that we got this school shooting in Texas, right? So there's a school shooting in Texas the same day that we get George Bush, some guy trying to plot an assassination against George Bush, assassinated presidents, skull and bones, just, all stupidly synced up to the things that I was talking about. Even the guy who tried to assassinate him, he was 52 years old. Would you believe that? 52 years old. That number's really important, too, to some other things, Think about George Bush and 9/11 and his father giving the speech about the New World Order exactly 11 years to the day before 9/11 happened. And, 9/11 happened on the day leaving 111 days in the year on September 11th. New York's the 11th state. The World Trade Centers look like a giant 11. The first plane to hit was flight AA-11. Of course, A is the first letter, so it was like 11, 11, and, a whole bunch more. But NWO equals 11 and also 52. And, President 52, Gematria 52, Kabbalah 52, White House 52. So in these Francis Bacon ciphers that I've been talking about, how skull and bones equals 254, and 9/11 is the 254th day of the year. Well, there's 52 letters because there's capital letters in them ciphers. And just think about it, Stems back to Kabbalah, the belief that God created the world by letters and numbers and so on, right? And of course, God in the Francis Bacon ciphers equals 52. But look at this. This story comes 322 days after George Bush's birthday. Absolutely perfect, because 322 is the number of skull and bones. Of course, George Bush, the skull and bones member, along with John Kerry, 322 days, And it's also 43 days before his next birthday, his 76th birthday, on the date 7/6. And of course, skull and bones equals 76, so, another interesting connection for this coming year with George Bush, but the 43 is important because he was the 43rd president, and his father was the 43rd vice president. And when George W. Bush won the election, it was because of that vote recount in Florida. Florida equals 43, and his brother was the governor at the time, and he was the 43rd governor. I believe it was even 124 days after George Bush's birthday, the election was. And Florida also equals 124, and a whole bunch of other things. But skull and bones is in Yale, and Yale also equals 43, so just stupidly synced up to skull and bones and whatnot. With this Texas elementary shooting is absolutely synced to the same thing that I've been talking about. Because if you go so this shooting happened at Robb Elementary School, and I don't know how to pronounce this town, but Uvalde, Texas, right? It happened on the same day as this George Bush story, but if you go and look at the Uvalde, Texas on Wikipedia, it only lists like a few famous people, right? And most people this day and age, the one that would stick out the most is Matthew McConaughey. But notice there's also one of the vice presidents of the United States actually got his start here in this small town of like 15,000 people, right? Well, I guess some people say it's small. I live in a town of like 1,000 people, but John Nance, he was the 32nd vice president, and think about vice president, right? I was talking about how the vice president might be important to Vice News showing up in Buffalo. And I thought, like I pointed out how it was 152 days before Kamala Harris's birthday, and Kamala Devi Harris is 152, Joe Biden 152, Vice News 152. Buffalo even equals 152, right? So I was like, there's definitely something important to vice presidents, I thought, right? Vice News, vice president. And so, what are the odds now that the big story is that there is, the shooting at this elementary where the 32nd Vice President John Nance Garner is from, right? But what's interesting is notice when this guy was born, November 22nd. Does that stick out to you? Should stick out to a lot of people if they know a little bit about history and assassinated presidents. JFK. He got assassinated on November 22nd of 1963. And even if you read further onto this guy, it talks about how JFK actually called and wished him a happy birthday just before he got assassinated. It's like, what are the odds, What is that? January 20th. He had a 46-year career in public life. Like how JFK died at the age of 46. Like how Joe Biden's the 46th president. Like how they're the first two Catholic presidents. The word Catholic 46. Pretty interesting, But just what are the odds? The vice president, and then his birthday is the same day as JFK's, and JFK calls him the same day that JFK was assassinated. Once again, assassinated presidents. And for years we've been talking about this number 144 and how it's linked up to assassinated presidents or presidents who died in office or even just assassinations. Think about Martin Luther King, who died on 4/4. And if you write out 44, it equals 144, and April 4th equals 144. Abraham Lincoln had a dream 10 days before he died that he was going to get assassinated, and then he got shot on 14/4. 10 days later, right? 10 days later, if you write that out in gematria, it's 144. Like how he had the dream on April 4th, and that looks like 44, and the first president to die in office died on 4/4. His name was William Henry Harrison Sr., that equals 144. JFK, the first Catholic pope, he met the Pope. I'm trying to think. He met the Pope 35 days after his birthday, right? He was the 35th president. The word Catholic also equals 35. But JFK died 144 days after meeting the Pope. And JFK died on the first day of Sagittarius. Then later his brother, Bobby Kennedy, would die, RFK, and he was pronounced dead at 1:44 in the morning. And if you go back to 2015, they had that, what was it, the Umpqua Community College shooting in Roseburg, Oregon on Jimmy Carter's birthday. And that was interesting because RFK gave a speech in Roseburg, Oregon 10 days before he died, right? So there was a connection there, and then it was on Jimmy Carter's birthday. So once again, something connected to the president or vice president. And Marilyn Monroe, even famous for singing Happy Birthday to JFK, she sang Happy Birthday to JFK 10 days before his actual birthday on May 19th. And then JFK's wife, Jackie, would later go on to die on May 19th, 10 days before JFK's birthday. So there's a huge pattern here. And in relation to George Bush, it's also interesting that this John Nance Garner, his term as vice president, it ended on January 20th of 1941. That just so happens to be exactly 10 days before Dick Cheney was born. Of course, Dick Cheney was George Bush's vice president. And Dick Cheney's also from Lincoln, Nebraska, like Abe Lincoln, Lincoln, Nebraska. Think about, Dick Cheney and the hunting accident, too. And this year 41 is interesting because skull and bones equals 41, right? Think about how George Bush's father, who was also a member of Skull and Bones, was the 41st president. And 9/11 had a lot to do, it had happened on a date in numerology of 41, and Al Qaeda equals 41, a whole bunch of stuff. But Dick Cheney, also the 46th vice president, right? I never looked to see if he was Catholic. I should actually look that up really quick. Dick Cheney. I don't know if he's Catholic or not. Usually it tells you in here. Religion, maybe. Well, I don't know. I'll look that up later. Maybe I'll add a little note if I can find it. But it's just interesting here. 46th, Biden's the 46th president and the 47th vice president. Hmm. Plus, Donald Trump met the Pope on the 144th day of the year in 2017, just before that Houston Astros World Series and so on. And that was Donald Trump's fourth month and fourth day as being the president, right? 44. And later that year, 144 days after Donald Trump's birthday, we got that Sutherland Springs church shooting. And that was interesting because just because it's pretty close to San Antonio, it's not too far away from this other shooting in Texas, right? The one that happened a couple days ago. So, and this was all synced up to this theme I was following with the movie Stand By Me, and I thought there was something important to Kiefer Sutherland, and then I was actually like literally watching for the date, November 5th, and we got the Sutherland Springs church shooting. It's like, give me a break. So, and that was all important to the Marilyn Manson video where JFK gets assassinated, and his girlfriend at the time was Rose McGowan, who in the video was dressed like Jackie Kennedy. And then, of course, Harvey Weinstein supposedly was molesting people, and they had that Me Too movement going, and then Rose McGowan was like a big advocate for it right around that same time. But at that same time, they also released the JFK files, and that was 10 days before the Sutherland Springs church shooting. So 10 days before 144 days after Trump's birthday. And Marilyn Manson also had that song that he released called Say 10, where he says, you say God, and I say 10, like the number. Of course, in gematria, God equals 10 and Satan equals 10. And, 10, they both also equal 55. And the 10th triangular number is 55. The 10th Fibonacci number is 55. Really important. But in that video, he had Donald Trump being assassinated. So I guess just the moral of the story, this date, 144, the 144th day, it has an importance to, assassinations and assassinated presidents. So once again, interesting we get the story about George Bush on that day. It also it comes 149 days before Kamala Harris's birthday. If you write out vice president, it equals 149. If you write out skull and bones, it equals 149. It's also 6 months and 4 days after Joe Biden's birthday. If you write out Joe Biden equals 64. Also 186. And 186 was this really important number to the Umbrella Man, whose name was Louis Witt, who equals 186, who was at the JFK assassination, if you watched the previous video. And Uvalde, Texas, where the shooting supposedly happened, equals 186 and 64. And the word assassination also equals 186. But what I found really interesting, so we get the vice president, right, after the Vice News. And, it's also interesting that Angel Baby had that synchronicity at Niagara Falls, too, right? On the 144th day of the year. She had to stay an extra day or whatever, and so they went to Niagara Falls on the 144th day of the year, and there was some bar they were supposed to go to, so they went there, and the drink special, the drink special was called 144 Days, and they happened to go there on the 144th day of the year, and so on. And think about Angel Baby in regards to the Los Angeles Angels, and that angel theme that I'm talking about And, of course, Zachary K. Hubbard equals 149 as well. I'm really synced to him with these numbers, with the skull and bones numbers too. My name equals 254, and my full name equals 254. And my name also equals 202, just like skull and bones. 202, 254. Zach's born on the 202nd day of the year, 254 days after my birthday. So there's some interesting parallels here, but I'll talk about some of this here in a second because Niagara Falls is really important to the death of Prince. And Prince was important to this Native American theme that I was following in 2016, linked to the Indians being in the World Series. And it had to do with Zach Taylor, even. And Prince and Mike Pence are born on the same day. And Mike Pence is from Indiana, the land of the Indian, and Indiana is the 19th state. We just had the 19 kids being killed, and their birthdays are 6-7, which is 67 is the 19th prime number. So Prince's ex-girlfriend Vanity had died on 67 days before Prince died, and she was from Niagara Falls. And the same day that Prince died, they colored Niagara Falls purple. Think about Prince and the color purple, but they said that it was in honor of Queen Elizabeth's birthday because Prince died on Queen Elizabeth's birthday. But the Indianapolis Colts owner went on to that summer or whatever, he bought Prince's Yellow Cloud guitar, and there was a big theme to the area that I live in with Chief Yellow Smoke, and think about Yellow Smoke and Yellow Cloud. And then a boy got ate by an alligator in, what was it, Disney World or whatever it is in Florida. And it was linked up to Zachary Taylor, the president, because the last person to get ate there was a guy named Zachary Taylor on the date 6/5. Of course, if you look up Zachary Taylor, he died at the age of 65, and his name in gematria equals 65. But and then when he died, the president Millard Fillmore became the president, and Millard Fillmore actually ended up later dying in Buffalo. But that boy who got ate by an alligator, he was from the area that I'm from. He's from Omaha, and which is really close to where I live. But they honored him at the Millard High School by like putting his name or something on their helmets. I can't remember what it was, but they did some like honoring thing to him. I'm thinking, what are the odds? It's synced with Zachary Taylor, and then the Millard High School is the one who like does this tribute to him, and then Millard Fillmore is the guy who replaces Zachary Taylor. I mean, it's just people say it's crazy, but it's not. It's like look at how this perfectly aligns. I don't even know if that was even done on like purposely by the school or whatever. But it's just craziness that it would be Millard High School, Millard Fillmore, who died in Buffalo. But anyway, the other famous person, the most famous person from this town that supposedly got shot up with the Robb Elementary School or whatever, is Matthew McConaughey. And right away, what stands out to me with Matthew McConaughey is that I remember he is in the movie Angels in the Outfield, right? It's like he's in the movie Angels in the Outfield. And he's also 52 years old right now. And he's from this town. And his birthday's 11/4 or 4/11. And JFK got shot from 411 Elm Street. That's why we just had the Johnny Depp stuff in the news like crazy, because Johnny Depp was in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. So it's pretty interesting. And he's 52 years old. He's also in this movie How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I've never watched it, but just think about it, how to lose somebody in 10 days, kind of like a assassination, I'm talking about this theme with 10 days. What are the odds? He's in the movie Angels in the Outfield. I wonder about Danny Glover in this movie too. He wears the number 52, and his name equals 52. And he was also the president in that movie 2012, the movie called 2012 that was kind of about, The End of the World and so on with John Cusack. And it's just interesting that he was the president. And then in this movie, he's wearing the number 52 and his name equals 52. And they're comparing this shooting to Sandy Hook that happened in 2012, just like the Batman shooting. Remember in the Batman movie, they changed South Hinkley on the map and they pointed to Sandy Hook. And then later we got Hurricane Sandy and then Sandy Hook supposedly shot up. And all kinds of stories. But back after Tyler Skaggs died, I noticed Wikipedia had changed. Wikipedia changed the plot of Angels in the Outfield. It's like, who's changing the plot of a 1994 film in 2019? Like, what? Why is anybody even on here changing the plot? Or this isn't the one, but it was on the. I didn't put a picture in here, but it was on the date 3/4 of 2019. Somebody went in and they changed the plot of the movie to say that at the very beginning of the film, the kid goes to the Los Angeles Angels game against the Oakland Athletics, but it's actually the Toronto Blue Jays. So it's odd that they would change it to Oakland Athletics, instead of Toronto Blue Jays who's playing. But I'm bringing that up because they actually changed it 131 days before Tyler Skaggs' birthday that year. And remember, Tyler Skaggs died that same year, but and Oakland equals 131, and they changed it on 3/4, and athletics equal 34. So it's interesting how it would sync up to Tyler Skaggs' birthday of 713. Of course, 713 is the Houston area code, and Barbara Bush died 7 months and 13 days before George H.W. Bush that year, or it wasn't that year, I don't think, but yeah, it was 2019, right? But what I noticed when I went back and looked today, the jeez, I can't even find it here. The last revision on this movie was on May 2nd, or it was May 15th, but notice it was line 52. And then one before that was May 2nd, 5/2. So somebody's on there revising it. The last time it happened was on May 15th, but it was with line 52. And then the time they changed it before was on the date 5/2, another, like, more 52 stuff. And if you look at the old revisions that I was talking about on my old post here, they actually changed it back to Toronto Blue Jays on Tyler Skaggs' birthday. And the revision before that was on May 21st, this day I'm talking about with Buffalo and so on. Which is also the day that Alfonso Taft died. And Alfonso Taft is one of the co-founders of Skull and Bones. So, important number. Important date, I guess, with Skull and Bones and this Buffalo rally. 3/4 to 7/13 is also 4 months and nine days, like 49. And Kamala Harris is the 49th vice president. And Kamala Harris equals 49. So it's just interesting that, the moral of the story is that I'm talking about how there's a theme with Vice News and how it might be synced up to the vice president, and how it's also synced up to the Los Angeles Angels, and then the two most famous people from this town, arguably, are the former vice president, the 32nd vice president, and Matthew McConaughey, who's in the movie Angels of the Outfield. It's like, give me a break. It's all linked up here. And my friend Cody actually sent me this article. I don't know. I haven't really paid any attention to any videos lately, but maybe somebody talked about this. But what are the odds that today, after the day after this shooting with the 19 kids or whatever, we get a story of this Josh Duggar guy who's sentenced to 12 years in prison for child pornography. And he's famous for the show called 19 Kids and Counting. It's like, so 19 kids die yesterday. And then now today they're releasing the news that this guy got sentenced, and he's famous for the show 19 Kids and Counting. And his name equals 52. Josh Duggar, 52. 19 kids. The elementary was called Robb Elementary School. Robb equals 19. And once again, the stuff with Mike Pence, right? Mike Pence. So Angel Baby had this synchronicity in Niagara Falls on the 144th day of the year, and the drink special was called 144 Days, and it was in Niagara Falls. And once again, Niagara Falls is synced up to the death of Prince, and Prince was linked up to the Indian theme that was synced up to Mike Pence, and he shared a birthday with Mike Pence, which is on 6/7. The 19th prime number is 67. Think about the 19 kids. Indiana, where Mike's from, the land of the Indian. It's the 19th state. It's also founded on John Kerry's birthday, right? 12/11, John Kerry, Skull and Bones member. If you go back to the other video, I had synchronicity with my friend or my coworker at work on May 21st, the day of the Buffalo rally. She came to work wearing a shirt with a buffalo on it that I'd never seen before. And then I got a Facebook notification saying that I had memories, and I went and looked at them. And of course, one of them was that my band played at the bar called the Buffalo Club 6 years ago, and the Buffalo Club equals 322, the Skull and Bones number, right? And that's important because Mike Pence also equals 322 in Francis Bacon. And look at the parallels between Vice President and Skull and Bones. Indiana even equals 52 in gematria. I think John Kerry equals 52 as well, though I'm thinking about it. Yeah, John Kerry equals 52 as well. And John Kerry is also important to presidential assassinations because his middle name is Forbes, JFK, right? Notice how I've been saying that these Fibonacci ciphers seem to be important to this year. We've been shown to watch these. And, John Kerry equals 616. And another big thing is I've talked about in regards to the angel theme, the Archangel Gabriel, who equals 616 in the Francis Bacon, and I think JFK also equals 616. I know there's different ciphers here, but it's still interesting. 616, and just keep seeing this, That's supposedly the number of the beast, too. Some people think it's 616 and not 666, right? So, but, Abe Lincoln had that dream 10 days before. There's a big dream theme that's linked up to this train symbolism that I'm following. Think about that train shooting just before the Buffalo shooting in the Oklahoma City rally. Think about how, you know, Martin Luther King had a dream before he was assassinated on 4/4. And it's linked up to, I don't even know, it's linked up to the date 6/4 and a whole bunch of stuff. But all that dream stuff, it all stemmed back to the angel Gabriel that I was talking about. So I just find that interesting. The Archangel Gabriel equals 616 as well, along with John Forbes Carey, or John Kerry, whose initials are JFK, right? Just like JFK, who got assassinated. John Kerry equals 52. John Kerry definitely got to watch out for. I've been watching him for a while. Since I had synchronicity like last August. He's also from Aurora, Colorado, which is where the Batman shooting took place just before Sandy Hook, right? He's really synced up to the Pittsburgh Steelers and all that stuff too, with the bridge symbolism that was going on. There's something just stupidly important to this guy. The date 3/4 as well, the day they changed that Angels in the Outfield, is interesting because that's also the same day that the Batman movie came out this year, on the date 3/4. I also just wondered if Mike Pence is important because when I typed in Los Angeles Angels on my blog, only a handful of posts actually came up, and one of them involves Charles Barkley possibly having coronavirus, but he was around the Los Angeles Angels player. And in that blog post, I mentioned how Charles Barkley also told Mike Pence to shut the hell up. So it made me wonder because Mike Pence is actually in one of these, and Los Angeles. There's also that Los Angeles Angels sweater, right, at the Buffalo Memorial. There was a sweater with a Angels wings and it said LA on it at the Buffalo Memorial, reminding us of Los Angeles Angels. Los Angeles also the city of angels, so I remember when Tyler Skaggs died, I was also talking about the symbolism with earthquakes in Los Angeles and how it was synced up to the Statue of Independence. And then on Independence Day, there was a big earthquake in Los Angeles right after Tyler Skaggs died, the Angels player. Right? The Angel of Independence, then the Angels player died, and then there was a big earthquake. And I was talking about how it was linked up to the Angel of Independence, so I'm just going to leave it there. It's interesting, too. Think about the Batman stuff, too, though. I want to leave it here, but I recently talked about Lil Wayne being important, right? And then Lil Wayne was at the Dallas Mavericks game right after I mentioned how I thought Lil Wayne was important. I randomly turned it to the Dallas Mavericks game, and the first thing I see is Lil Wayne on there. He's like sitting front row, and they start talking about Lil Wayne. But Lil Wayne also had that "My Homie Still" song, where he had the dead people in the theater, the skeletons in the theater, and that one girl wearing the mask that looked like Batman just before the Batman shooting. I'm pretty sure he even says the word Illuminati in the song. So Lil Wayne was also linked up to the stuff with Prince. I think it was right after Prince died. Lil Wayne was in had like a seizure on the airplane or something. Had to emergency land in Omaha. That was all linked. It was all linked back to uh, Alton Sterling as well. Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, and these two. That one, Philando Castile was killed on George Bush's birthday. But all this had to do with Baton Rouge. Obama had gave a speech at McKinley High School in Baton Rouge right around this time, or sometime in 2016, and then we got the Alton Sterling shooting, and the very next day we got Philando Castile, and Philando Castile died in Falcon Heights, Minnesota. Think about McKinley High School in Baton Rouge, though, and Falcon Heights is where Teddy Roosevelt gave a speech about carrying a big stick, and Baton Rouge is named after the red stick of the Homa people. But Teddy Roosevelt is the president who replaced William McKinley after he was assassinated at the Buffalo World's Fair. And when Donald Trump had went to the Nationals game in 2019, they made a big deal on the CNN article about how Donald Trump didn't cheer for Teddy Roosevelt when he won like the little presidential run that they do at the games or whatever. He didn't cheer for Teddy Roosevelt, which seems so weird to even mention in the article. And of course, Teddy Roosevelt replaced William McKinley. Philando Castile killed on George Bush's birthday. This was also, like I said, the same year as that big Native American theme. That big Native American theme was also linked up to the Cleveland Indians like no other, right? And the Indians ended up being in the World Series that year. And then right before the World Series, we started getting all them stories about the Dakota Access Pipeline and stuff, right? The Native Americans protesting the pipeline just before the Indians are in the World Series. I mean, it's such a joke. I don't know how people didn't catch on to that, but I'm bringing that up because the Indians just changed their name to the Guardians, right? Like a guardian angel, right? So I just think there's something important to that. So I'll leave it there. I'm seriously so exhausted. I didn't even get home until like 2:30 last night, or somewhere around there. I don't know what time it was, but 2 o'clock. But I have not got any sleep in days, so I have to get some sleep. So just wanted to make a follow up video, and I always say it's going to be short, then I just start talking. The next thing I know, the video is longer than crap. But we'll sleep it there. Have a good one. Peace.